Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Swahili Sunday. I'm playing around with my camera situation because I have two of them going here. And this is I'm working on getting it in alignment so I can kind of look at both cameras because I'm doing live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and now Instagram. So I am attempting to do like a double. I see this camera has my iPad in it, and this is a learning curve. Eventually, I think Swahili Sunday is supposed to be more of a relaxed kind of broadcast. And let's see if I do it this way. That's a little better. But I may do that in the new studio too. I just don't want to set up my temporary studio and get that all going. Now, I will say that perhaps we may hear some barking. I have my son's dog here along with mine. If you've ever seen me talk about Indigo, I also have Gracie here. And Gracie barks when a gnat flies by. So hopefully she won't be barking during the broadcast, prayerfully. But if she does, there's not much I can do about that because she is. And then she gets Indigo going, and then they're both barking and it's crazy. Oh my gosh. Okay, so welcome to Swahili Sunday. What are we going to talk about today? So I've been talking about my word of the year being risk. So we're going to talk a little bit about what risk is, taking risks, how fear of rejection comes into play. I'll share a little bit about the Educating Children program and how I really need your help. We have a lot of kids waiting to go to school, and I don't have the funds to send them all, and it just breaks my heart. So I'm working hard to raise funds for this new term. We have one student this is her last year in high school, and she's sitting at home waiting for help with school fees. And I'll explain about that in a minute. And then also I'll share a little bit about our upcoming trip to Kenya, so you can find out about that. If you are following or watching from Kenya, because I know I have a lot of my Kenya friends that watch from Kenya, share with your friends here in the US if you have any friends in the US, and ask them to like the page on Facebook, follow on Instagram, connect them to us and what we're doing. The more we get the word out, the more people. I actually have had Facebook tell me your engagement is up. We're showing your info to more people. So even if you don't want to get involved, you like what I'm doing, but you don't want to get involved as far as anything more than just sharing. So follow. If you're watching me on Instagram, you're not following, please follow Baskets and Beads Kenya. You'll see all the updates that we're doing. If you're following me anywhere on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, other than on the Facebook page, please like the Facebook page. We need to grow the size of that page so that can be shown to more people as well, because we're doing our live shopping on Thursday. That's evolving into something new as well. And then we're going to continue doing Swahili Sunday. All right, let's get into this thing. All right, so risk. I had mentioned at the beginning of the year, I always choose a word that sort of is the foundation of my year. Obviously, faith is always part of my year, my faith in God. And by the way, my shirt, if you if God entrepreneur, it says Jesus is my upline. I thought this was such a cool shirt. So my good friend and fellow believer, John Clash, you could find this shirt. Hopefully he still has them. I think it's the coolest thing. So anyway, my faith is always a foundation, but I always like to choose a word to kind of be a foundation for my year, for what I'm going to do. I learned that a few years ago. Actually, we did that in the acting class that I was in. And I took an acting class to get better at becoming a better speaker. And I really enjoyed my time with that. I learned a lot. I was very green, didn't know what I was doing. Acting's a whole different ball game than speaking, but it did help me become a better speaker. And I actually did progress and do some good work. I was able to actually do some scenes that actually didn't sound contrived and sounded like I was actually in the moment. And I learned a lot about that. And one of the things that we did was we picked a word for the year. And then some of my past words have been things like service, excellence. Uh, I think I had faith one year because I really wanted to focus on my faith more than just a foundational principle. I wanted everything to be about my faith. But this year, the word is risk. And risk, I was looking up definitions of risk, and risk, I saw something that said it's the chance of something happening that will have a negative effect. So if you take a risk, it could have a negative effect. You could have a negative effect. That's why people fear taking risks, because of the fact that it could have a negative effect. I could do this and it could blow up in my face. And I've had that happen on several occasions. As a matter of fact, many, many years ago, oh, let me put up the Swahili word for take the risk. Uh, risk is hatari. That's the Swahili word for risk. And then kuchukua hatari is take the risk. So hatari is risk in Swahili. And I always like to share the Swahili word of the topic that I'm sharing. So hatari is the word for risk, and it taking a risk, kuchukua hatari. So it's tough to step out and take a risk. And why did I choose risk for my word this year? Because I am taking big risks and big steps that I don't know if I've been afraid to take them, because so fear is another thing. I'll just go down the fear path. 2 Timothy 1:7 said, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind." There's other translations that say self-discipline and self-control. I don't really agree with those, because sound mind is so much more than your self-control and your self-discipline. Sound mind, which is something I'm so grateful that I have, that I didn't always have in my life, is peace of mind, is that peace that you have in your mind. And I many years had lived a lot of years in my life in chaos in my mind because of where I grew up in. So a lot of people don't want to take a risk because they fear rejection. Rejection is really never personal. I think about, I was rejected by my parents. My mother rejected me because of her alcoholism. She couldn't be a proper parent because she was sick from the disease of alcoholism. Now, when I was 5 years old, she left me in a store. Like, she actually left me. She told me to turn around because she was going to put something in the cart that she didn't want me to see for my upcoming birthday. I remember that. I stood there for a long time waiting for her to tell me to turn around. And I started calling out to her, and there was nothing. And I sheepishly looked around behind my shoulder, and she was gone. And I ran up and down the aisles in the store crying out for her. And then I just came out to the middle aisle and stood there crying my eyes out. And she had left. And we were on the second floor of the store. And the way I know this is because they called out over the intercom for, I don't know how long, several times, describing this little lost girl and what she was wearing and what her mother was wearing, because I remembered what she was wearing. And nobody came. And then for what seemed like an eternity, of course, you're a kid, you don't know how long it is, but I just remember them calling out, and I'm sitting there. They had me sitting on the counter, and that I'm thinking, where's my mother? And then she comes running up the escalator. That's how I know we were on the second floor. Now, when I think about that, because as a mother myself, and I'm thinking about, okay, my child's with me. If I'm getting on the escalator to go downstairs, I'm going to make sure my child can get on the escalator, because that's not an easy thing for kids to do. And so she had to leave where she was, go downstairs. I don't know what she did. I really feel like she was trying to abandon me. I don't think she really after she had me. And I had said this before, that I don't think that she thought in her head, I'm going to have a child so I can tear her down, destroy her self esteem, and leave her doubting her self worth all her life. I don't think any woman intends to have a child to do that to, but that's exactly what she did to me. And I had to fight through a lot of things and do a lot of work to get to the level of peace of mind that I have today. So I think sound mind has so much more to do with so much more beyond self discipline and self control. A sound mind is your mindset and how peaceful you are. But that doesn't mean taking a risk is easy. You can't simply step out and be like, yeah, I'm going to take that risk. Okay. Just the whole meaning of risk means the possibility of a negative outcome could happen. So you take a risk and you risk that negative outcome. And a lot of people, for instance, putting myself out there to meet somebody, and they reject me for whatever reason. And we always think rejection is personal, but rejection is really never personal, because it's more about the other person than it is about you. So, first of all, knowing that you don't, that God didn't give you the spirit of fear. So, where does that fear come from? Certainly not of good, it comes from evil. So, you have to think about, okay, why am I afraid? This year, I have signed a lease on a space. I'm moving into a space. I currently have a warehouse. I have two warehouses actually. One with speaking things and workshop things and a few personal things from Think Like a Negotiator. And then my other warehouse where the all the product is, and it's crammed into 200 square feet. And we were going to attempt to set up some kind of studio in there, but there is no electricity. There's lights, but the lighting is horrible over there. I mean, they have electricity, but there's nothing for us to plug into. And then I had wanted to start having events and bring people in a place to show them the product. And I'm working in the background on some wholesale things. So I needed to step out and get a different place. So I went and I found this place that was 400 square feet. Well, that's 200 square feet bigger than what I have. But then, and I don't think it was by accident, while we were looking at the space, the lady who was showing me the property said, oh, this other space, which has a 400 square foot office and a 400 square foot warehouse, just came available. Now, I am of the belief that nothing just happens. There's no coincidences. I was there and okay, this just came open. It was meant for me, but I don't go and make decisions anymore like this, because if I make a decision like that, a lot of times I do things like I'll maybe take a risk and it'll blow up in my face. So I do things very carefully, prayerfully. I write down pros and cons of things and figure things out. So I have two warehouses. I can eliminate that cost, and then the cost is going to be maybe double of what I'm paying. And I'm willing to take that risk because I believe that this is the year that things are going to move forward, and I'm positioning things to make that happen. We're doing a weekly live every Thursday, so be sure to join us Thursday at 5 p.m. That's going to be interviews and shopping. We are working out how we're still playing with that and working out how that's going to work, but would love for you to join us for that as well. Swahili Sunday will continue, which is inspirational topics, and I'm sharing personal stories and things like that and then teaching a little Swahili because I still want to learn how to speak Swahili. Anyway, so taking that risk, rejections, I talk about this with asking for exactly what I want and Think Like a Negotiator. You have to ask. You're not going to get what you don't ask for. Basically, if you quit, you're guaranteed it will never happen. So if you're wanting to do something and you don't take that risk and you don't step out and ask for exactly what you want, you are guaranteed that that thing will never come to fruition because you are not asking for exactly what you want. And that is a Think Like a Negotiator strategy. Ask for exactly what I want. You're not going to get what you don't ask for. It's very important to step up, take the risk, and ask. Now, the answer may be no, but the answer may be no because they need more information or they need more time, or the answer may simply be no. Like, oh, why did this person reject me? Well, it's not, and of course you think, well, I'm the one being rejected, so it must be about me. Not necessarily. It's more about them than it is about you. You have to look in the mirror and say, okay, well, was this person in alignment with my values? Was this situation in alignment with my values? Why didn't this happen? Why didn't I get this? I look back at when I was building my speaking career, and the bottom basically fell out in 2019. And I was working the baskets and beads. I had space in a couple places and was growing that and still working on growing my business. I was not working a corporate job. I'd left my corporate job in 2016, and the bottom completely fell out. One contract that I had, it was coming to an end. There was other contracts that came to an end. I finished them, and I could not get a contract or a speaking gig to save my life for whatever reason. I was doing what I knew to do to market. I was working hard at it, and it just completely stopped. And I didn't understand why. And I remember, I've told this story before. I was basically on the floor right here on the edge of the couch, crying my eyes out to God and saying, why? Why is this happening? I don't understand. And I made the decision to go back to a corporate job, which I really didn't want to do. And I actually thought that I'm like, how am I going to do this, build this baskets and beads ministry and work a job on top of it? And I thought, I live in Irvine, California, which if you're not from this area, where most of the defense contractors are, they're around Los Angeles Air Force Base. That's 40 miles from my house. Doesn't sound like much if you're not from here, but if you're from here, you understand 40 miles can take 2 hours, depending on traffic. And I remember doing that drive before I left the job up there, and how exhausted I was driving back and forth. There were times when I was falling asleep at the wheel because I was so tired from driving back and forth and attempting to um, do that. And it was just very, very challenging. And so I ended up I made a decision to take a corporate job. My background in the Air Force was contracts management and negotiation. I was a contract specialist in the Air Force. Was a contracting officer responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts. I worked as a contracts negotiator or senior subcontracts administrator for defense contractors, and then did some kind of systems administration type work where I was coordinating things for launch of satellites. So that was interesting. We lost that contract, and I made a decision to go out and keep going. And as a matter of fact, I did get one of the contracts extended after, like during COVID, I guess. But I say all that to say I went ahead and applied for some jobs, and I am working from home. Thankfully, I'm so grateful. I no, hey Ricky, yeah, early mornings, long days, and short nights. Yes, definitely. I'm definitely doing that for sure. So anyway, I got a job that was so close to the house, and I was still able to work the baskets and beads ministry. But then what happened? It was December 2019 when I started that job, and I'm sharing this story to share a point. I took a risk basically to do the job situation. And what happened in March 2020? Everything shut down. Now, I know some speakers, I had one speaker kind of put me down because I didn't get a lot of online speaking or whatever. That just didn't work for me. I didn't know how to translate that very well. But I did have some, but not enough to really be sustainable. But March 2020, the bottom fell out, and there were no more in-person speakings. There were no more in-person trainings. Was no keynote speeches. There were no conferences, nothing. We were not in person. It's still slow to come back. I think when I heard about it, it was like 2023, 2024, everything would be kind of back in line. So I had no speaking. And had I been relying on speaking, and then of course, everything shut down, all my wholesalers, almost all of my wholesalers for baskets and beads went out of business because they were small boutique shops. The rest of them just obviously the doors were closed. So they weren't shopping. I was in 3 retail locations where I had rented space. I had to pull out of 2 of them. I remained in Fairtrade Long Beach because I've been a founding member of that space for since it started. And I think that I really truly believe that the bottom fell out of my speaking so I could take the job, so I could have some income as I rebuild baskets and beads after the fallout from COVID slash the pandemic, whatever you want to refer it to as. So now I'm bootstrapping and straddling again, but thankfully I work from home, and I'm doing the stuff that I've done for many, many years. I'm subcontract specialist for L3 Harris in Anaheim, but I work in the quote unquote Irvine division. So I am so grateful for that. And oh yeah, Ricky, a whole lot. There's the whole, anybody who doesn't understand what we do as I work in the supply chain side as a subcontract specialist. It, there's so much. It's not just, oh, I go place an order with somebody. There is so much logistics involved in just managing all of that. And I juggle a whole lot of things. But then I move from, when I'm done working, I move to working on baskets and beads. I had done a whole lot of pop-ups on the weekend and working on doing more online. So it's definitely something that I'm working hard to make come to fruition. I've got some things working in the background to get bigger wholesale accounts. I have an idea that I'm working, and this is going back to taking a risk. It's important to take a risk, but you want to make sure that before you take a risk, you are protected. You've protected yourself, because I made that mistake many, many years ago. I was attempting to make some moves in the motorcycle industry. I ride a Harley. I haven't been able to ride much because of my back, but sometimes I'll just ride around the parking lot just to get that smile on my face. But I shared an idea, or I shared my brand message with a women's coordinator for a motorcycle brand. I'm not going to say any more than that. But interestingly enough, I had no non-disclosure agreement with them. I didn't even think about that. I was just so excited. I thought I had something great for women in the motorcycle industry, and I wanted to be connected. And they talked to me at this conference. The head of the women's, I guess the women's department of that industry. And next thing I know, my brand tagline was now part of their brand. They changed one word, but they basically took my brand tagline from me, my intellectual property, and used it. And I learned a big lesson from that, because you need to make sure that, okay, taking a risk is important, but you need to make sure that you are protected. And I learned a lesson from that. Yep, very huge mistake. I learned a big lesson from that, and I will never do that again. So this idea that I have that I'm working, and that's another thing, you don't want to share your ideas with anybody in out in the industry unless you have some kind of non-disclosure agreement with them or something legally in writing, because they can just take it, which they did. They took it, learned a big lesson there, hurt really badly. That was many years ago, but I was shocked and stunned when I saw the slogan come out. I'm like, that's my tagline. That's what, but I was a little guy. What could I do? Was I going to go sue them? I wouldn't have won. Like, I didn't have the money. They could lawyer up and kind of break me. So you can take a risk, but you got to plan to take a risk, because I have an idea that I think will be very huge in a certain industry, but I want to make sure that they're not going to take it from me and run with it. So I'm working behind the scenes to figure out how to approach them, how to do that. But I will get a non-disclosure agreement signed before we have any discussions. It's a very important thing. Yes, yeah, Ricky, NDAs are very powerful. You have to protect yourself. Take a risk with caution. Protect yourself before you proceed. So that's kind of what I wanted to discuss about risk. I want to share a little bit about our education program in Kenya, what we're doing through Baskets and Beads, and we did get an NGO approved in Kenya. I'm so excited. Our NGO, non-government organization, basically it's a nonprofit in Kenya. I'm on the board, and my director and her husband and some others are on the board in Kenya. To have an NGO in Kenya, you have to have majority Kenyans on the board. So that's great. And that NGO is going to handle our farming and whatever else, other things that we're going to do there. Have a nonprofit here as well, Baskets and Beads. It's Dynamic Vision Foundation for Baskets and Beads Kenya. And what we are doing right now is raising funds for our Educating Children program. I have 9 kids that I'm raising, 9 kids that I'm raising funds for. And we've paid for one of them, but our coffers are kind of low. So the next one needs to start school this week, and the rest are sitting at home waiting for funds. And the thing that really shocks me is the median income in Kenya is around $200 a month. Now, there's some that make more and some that make less. And there's statistics that depend on whether it's skilled or unskilled labor. But just as an average, that is about what the average income a month is. For us to put our one kid that we just put in school, now school starts in Kenya in January. It goes January to December. It's a year-long school. They have breaks in between. They have to wear uniforms. When they get into Form 1, which is the first year of high school, it's Form 1, 2, 3, and 4, like freshman, sophomore, junior, senior here. They actually get told where they're going to go to school. And if they end up going to a different school every year, they wear a different uniform. So you have to buy uniforms, and there's this whole list of school supplies. So the school supplies for Alois, who's our first kid who's in high school, was $150. Now there's going to be a monthly maintenance fee because he's boarding. Most high schools are not day school, they're boarding. They go and they board there. So every month they're going to need replenishment of things like toothpaste and toothbrush and shoe polish and soap and washing powder for their clothes, and replace things that wear out. And then there may be some school supplies that the teacher requires. But just to get them started, it was $450 for the year for school, and you had to pay it all up front. You can't pay it it used to be you could break it up by semester, but now they want you to pay it all up front. And then another $150 for school supplies. So that's $600 and you think about the average person makes about $200 a month. How can somebody that makes that money afford to send their kids to school? That's why the literacy rate is so low, especially for kids in the slums, because there is no government help for them, and they have to scrape and try to get food and try to send their kids to school, and they just don't have the means to do it. That's why I'm working so hard here to get the products for people to buy the products, because the more products that sell, the more income is generated for the ladies. I've already bought everything up front, but I need to sell it to be able to order more from them and be able to help create a sustainable life to where they can pay the school fees for the kids, and they can buy food and have a prosperous life. That's our goal with Baskets and Beads Kenya. So I am working to raise funds so these kids can all go to school. Yeah, it is tough. To me, it's just mind boggling. I think about a lot of people here couldn't afford that. It would be ridiculous. But it's insane. So you have all these kids. We have one kid, Melody, who is no Daisy. It's Daisy it's her last year in high school, and her mom is just keeps calling our director over there. Have you heard anything yet? Have you heard anything yet? Of course, in Kenya, there's a lot of people that believe we as Americans have a money tree that we just, or a money chest that we just go and pick money from. And I don't know how to get across to them that it's not that way. And then yes, there are people that have that, but I'm not one of them. So I'm grateful for what I do have, but I don't have enough to fund all these kids. And so I'm raising funds. And if you're interested in donating any amount, we've actually had some people come on as monthly donors. I have somebody that donates $5 a month every month. Every little bit helps. Basketsandbeadskenya.org. If you want to donate, it is a 501c3 nonprofit, so it is tax deductible. Any amount would help. We need to raise, I think now I need about $400 more for Suumu. And then I'm working on gathering the cost for the rest of the kids, because some of them are not boarding, so it won't be as much, but it's still going to be several $100s per kid. It's about $2,000 or so to send the group of kids to school. And we'd love to be able to do that for more kids. I'm working to see if I can get organizations or groups to donate. It's hard. I mean, especially when I'm working to sell product, I'm working a job, and I'm working to raise funds for the things that we're doing in Kenya. Speaking of Kenya, so anyway, basketsandbeadskenya.org, that is where you can go to donate. Any amount would be helpful. I'd appreciate any donation that you feel led to give. It will go directly to the kids. Currently, because it's just me, we don't have any fees. At some point we will, but right now there's no real fees that come out of that. It'll all go to the kids and for their school to help them go. Speaking of Kenya, if you go to basketsandbeadskenya.com, and if you click on the Mission Kenya tab, you will see the information about the upcoming trip to Kenya. I've had several people inquire, and a lot of people inquire. It may be for somebody, it may be not, but we are going to do a 10-day trip to Kenya. You will get to meet the ladies of Baskets and Beads that make the product, and you'll actually get to learn how to make some product. And then we're going to go up to Mount Elgon and stay at Mount Elgon National Park, which is a national park up on the mountain. And we'll do a mobile medical clinic up there. And we will also do, hopefully we'll be helping harvest some potatoes. And then we'll do a women's conference and obviously get to see some of the sites. We'll also do a safari at the end. We're going to visit the women-only village in Samburu, and we'll be doing all kinds of things. If you go to basketsandbeadskenya.com and click on that Mission Kenya tab, you will see the information about the trip. Would love for you to join us and connect with us there and come and really experience what Kenya is all about. But if you can't come, I will be doing a fundraiser for the things we'll be doing for the trip. If you know any organizations, a Rotary Club, or any organizations, companies, anybody that does donations to groups, to organizations, I would really love to be connected. I'm looking also at possibly doing a fundraiser dinner at a restaurant as I get closer to the trip. And come, if you have any ideas, I'm kind of not the most knowledgeable about the whole fundraising thing. If you have any ideas, I would appreciate any ideas that you might have. So hopefully you got a little bit about taking a risk. You'll get to see the fruits of our taking a risk, as sometime this month we're waiting to hear when we will be able to move into the space. I'm excited about that. We're going to have a studio set up. However, Swahili Sunday may still end up being me sitting here on the couch, comfy, because it's more of a, that's more what Swahili Sunday is, just a comfy connection type of thing. So love for you to comment. Again, if you are watching on Instagram and you are not liked Baskets Beads Kenya, please follow us. If you're watching anywhere else, thank you for connecting. If you'd like to be part of our mailing list, right now my pop-up situation isn't working. I'm trying to get that working. You can DM me your email and I'll add you to the email list. I send out an email once a week, and just with updates of what's going on in Kenya and how you can get involved and support. I appreciate all your support that you've given Love to see you comment in the the comments on the video today. Also, if you are not, if you're on Facebook and you haven't liked the Baskets and Beads page or followed, whatever the proper term is, please do that. We need to build our, it helps build our engagement, and commenting on the videos also helps build the engagement. And the more engagement we get, the more our things are shown to more people. So there may be somebody this gets shown to down the road from somebody connecting me with somebody, or somebody commenting, or the engagement growing, that may be able to help even fund all these kids and more. We'd love to be able to send every kid that needs education to school. Here, I always say that here in the U.S., there's so many kids that don't want to go to school. They don't want to be bothered with school. I personally was a high school dropout because of my family situation. My mother died of alcoholism when I was 12. My father basically sat on the couch, drank beer, smoked cigarettes, and didn't say anything to me. No discipline, no love, no guidance, nothing. It's a miracle that I'm one, still alive, and that I didn't turn out to be a criminal or a train wreck or whatever thing that I could have ended up being from the situation that I grew up in. But the thing is, I didn't quit. I didn't quit working towards leaving that childhood behind. It took me a long time to figure out how to do it, but I was able to do it, and I had that peace of mind that I have a sound mind, and I am so grateful for that above all else. All right, everybody, would love for you to again donate basketsandbeadskenya.org. If you would like to donate, basketsandbeadskenya.org for the education. There's a place for you to check for school fees. Anything money that comes in right now is going for school fees for the kids. basketsandbeadskenya.com if you want to find out more about the upcoming trip, or if you would like to actually purchase a product. All right. I hope you have a great day, and I will sign off on this one. Not